Hello. Welcome to WarriorCast. My name is Mr. Dela Cruz. Today we have a very special. I feel like that's what everyone says about podcast episodes. But yes, this one's actually pretty special. This one's on women and superheroes and the superhero genre, comic books, movies. Comic books have reached a all-time high in terms of popularity in 2017, but not necessarily comic books, but superheroes. There have been how many superhero movies?
A lot.
Many.
A lot, yeah. Like I think I've lost count. Like I haven't seen many superhero movies. Like I haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Haven't seen Ant-Man. Okay, when you become a parent, you cannot see any movies unless they end up on your Netflix. And half the time, it's watching that with your kid playing in the background. But I'll introduce our guest, and we'll do this different this time. Introduce your name, you can say your grade, and if you had a superpower, what would it be? And I'll share too if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay, you can go first.
Okay, so my name is Jessica Franjel Cruz. I am a freshman, and if I had a superpower, oh my gosh, it's very hard. I'd probably be super speed, just because, like, there's so many things you can do with super speed. Like, not only can you just, like, I don't know, like, run as fast as you can, but if you run at a certain speed, you can create lightning bolts and then shoot that at other people, and then it just be amazing. Yeah.
Just very Flash.
Flash.
Yeah.
I love Flash. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Julianne Santos. I'm a freshman. And if I had a superpower, it would either be to heal any kind of disease that shows up, because people die from that. Or what was the other one? Or like control time, because it's annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you guys have the best superpowers. I'm like,
Yours
yeah,
is way thought out.
Yeah,
Way
I'm like,
more thought
I would
out than
totally
mine.
just fly. That's my, but then I realized flying kind of sucks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just fly.
Yeah, like what happens if,
But it's
someone
good fun,
shoots you down or something, or you fly into a building, like, yeah. Okay, so I will preface it first. I did some research, and I found that 40% of people that attended sort of fan conventions in 2014 were female, right? So the female demographic for comic books is actually growing in popularity, right? And so recent years, comic books was kind of like this guy thing,
Mm-hmm.
like sweaty guys in a basement reading comic books, pushing up their glasses with their fingers, right?
Yeah.
And talking about like who would win, Batman or Superman, and having really nerdy conversations. But since the popularity of movies and TV shows, we've seen sort of this uptick in female consumers of superhero genre. And so in many ways, it's sort of like taking our young people by storm, or just popular culture. It's part of popular culture. But I will say 2016 has been quite or 2017, 2016 kind of, but 2017 has been quite a pretty good year for women in film, or superhero women. But enough of me speaking. Y'all did some research, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe explain, like, so you surveyed the school community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Explain, like, what was your survey about, and maybe, like, what were your findings around all those things?
Okay, so we did a survey on students at school. So we got like a couple of freshmen, boys and girls, juniors, and basically all the grades. And we asked them which female superhero they would choose out of Moongirl, Dazzler, and Vampirella. And we also asked them to name as many female superheroes as they can in like 10 seconds. And the highest number that we got was 8, but on average people can name 3 or 4.
8?
Yeah.
8. It was.
Can you really name 8?
It was by Chris.
Yeah.
Chris as well.
What did he name? Or what were the ones that he named?
He named like the basics: Supergirl.
Yeah.
And
And then some like unpopular ones.
Yeah,
and some
really-
anime ones, I think.
Some anime ones.
Can I name 8 superheroes? I used to collect comic books. Wonderwoman, Supergirl,
Mhm.
Storm.
Oh, Storm's nice.
See, my 10 seconds is up.
Saturn Girl.
Who's Saturn Girl?
She's part of the Legends.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
I don't know.
I do.
Is Catwoman considered a hero?
Some
people said
some
that.
people said that, and I guess we counted it.
Okay. Just depends on what they.
Yeah.
What
And
they
then
see.
someone said their mom.
Yes, and we counted that for like.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
they
average
were like
was
my mom.
what was the average again?
4 or 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I mean, obviously, if we asked the question if there was male characters,
It'd
What do
probably
you
be
think?
a lot
Yeah,
more,
it would
just
be way
because
more.
I feel like they're more popularized, I guess, in a way.
right? I mean, there's more in general. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's more in general.
And
But-
they're seen as like stronger too.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. What else did you guys find?
Okay.
you
Yeah.
can
I
do
guess. That most people choose Vampirella, mostly because of like her like appearance, I guess. And Moongirl and Dazzler were at a tie. I personally feel like they chose Dazzler because I feel like when we'd walk up to them and like ask them about the superhero pool, they'd kind of like already figure out like it'd be about women and like the gender roles and stuff. So they'd kind of already like be like, okay, so we have to answer like correctly, like in a way.
So you try to game the system.
In a
Yeah.
way, I feel like they do that because they
Okay.
like they would
Can you describe maybe for people who are listening the pictures? Like, so who's Moongirl, Dazzler, and then who's
Okay, so-
Vampirella?
So Moongirl's okay. I'll say the description. Moongirl. The character is a 10-year-old African American girl who is described as the smartest character in the existing Marvel universe. Somewhat replacing Moonboy, Lunella is paired up with Devil Dinosaur, whom she shares a mental link with due to being inhuman. She has since gone on to be an increasingly popular character. And the picture, it shows her in her lab coat, a bow tie, with her big glasses and her pigtails, and a test tube. And then Dazzler. You want to do Dazzler?
Sure. Okay. Dazzler can transduce sonic vibrations into various types of light. Dazzler prefers utilizing music, particularly the which is rhythmically sustained, but cannot use the sound of her own unamplified voice. Dazzler can generate illumination, create realistic holograms, emit pulse or strobes to blind or disorient others. And the picture of her is with like a really tight suit. Her hair is blonde and it's like very wavy, and her cleavage is pretty out. And she's like using her powers, and she's on skates. I don't know yeah.
And the third superhero was Vampirella. So she has super strength, super speed, agility, reflexes, healing, durability, enhanced weaknesses. And she doesn't suffer any of the traditional vampire weaknesses, though once when the spear of Longinus pierced her, she let her attacker know that to kill her, they would had to pierce her heart. Although she did survive an arrow through her heart, but that was likely due to her pulling it out fast enough for her healing factor to save her. And her powers are shape-shifting, invisibility, hypnotism, telepathy, vermin summoning, aspect of Lilith. And her picture literally, her picture is just her holding a skull, and she's close to wearing nothing, so only her nipples are covered, and she has a collar, and she looks fierce.
Okay.
Yeah.
And most people chose Vampirella.
Yeah.
They
But-
didn't bother to
like
read the
description.
descriptions.
They just kind of
Okay.
like look at it and be like, oh, this one, and then like we'd be like, okay, then so we'd mark it down.
Yeah.
But
And
Right.
then what we found was that the people who chose Moongirl, they were like the ones who named a lot of superheroes and a lot of female superheroes, and they were the ones who were like actual fans, and they read the descriptions.
A lot of like the people that actually chose like Moongirl, yeah, they would read the description and wouldn't necessarily just like look at the picture and be like, oh yeah, this one or this one. They'd read the description and be like, oh well, that one.
Can I just look at the pictures?
Yeah.
Right. No, this is interesting because I mean, just looking at the pictures, you can almost like assume what the powers. You don't have to show me, but you can almost assume what the powers are. Like like I can assume that Moongirl, her defining traits like her intelligence, and then Dazzler has some sort of light ability.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you go to Vampirella, I'm like she's holding a skull and she's showing a lot of skin. I'm not sure what her seduction. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what the actual power is. But you're saying that a lot of people just chose what was they thought was like this attractive picture of like woman. Now, someone might be listening and someone might be thinking, well, what's the big deal? Why care about why should this matter? Why care about drawings at the end of the day?
Because young girls see these drawings and like while they're young, they're like, I want to look like that, but once they get older, they realize that they can't look like that. But then their self-esteem is already low, and that's how they don't have confidence in themselves. So it does affect a lot of people.
Did y'all experience that growing up? Did y'all feel like there was a pressure around like women's body image, like your family, yours per se, or maybe like your younger siblings, female siblings, that maybe growing up you were watching TV and like the notion of the ideal female body type was like sort of immense, or this pressure was present?
I feel like for me, my like it was kind of not necessarily, my family didn't really care how about like if I was fat or not. Well, at least to a certain extent, if I was like obese, then like, well, that's a different story. But for me, I kind of like not decided, but like I realized that like I can't be fat in a way, or like I can't be at like this type of size because of like TV shows. Like most of them would only show like skinny girls, and like they'd be the ones that get the guys, or like they'd be the ones that like so nice to everybody and everything. So like I feel like after a while I just kind of adapted that like fat people are seen as bad, and like I can't be fat because then I won't get enough friends, or like I won't like have a guy boyfriend, or so I feel like it was kind of like seen in a way that like we had to be a certain way to like get friends or something. But
yeah, I also feel the same way because like even in my family too, like, because you know how Filipinos are when they greet people they haven't seen in a long time, they're like, oh, you lost weight, or oh, you gained weight, like, like, and like in TV shows and when celebrities, you'd see how they're all skinny, and then they like promote this product and like they're wearing it so nicely with their fit body, and then like you would also see all these commercials with girls with abs or flat stomachs, and they're like, oh, strive to be like her, called blah 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 blah. So like, yeah, growing up, I was taught, well, I wasn't taught, but like the idea of being skinny was seen as a good thing, and being fat was kind of like, you should get better.
Right. And like with like comic, like superheroes being sort of at the forefront in terms of like popular culture, right? Young folks are getting interested and young children are getting interested in comic books. And I think they don't have Vampirella anymore. Moongirl's out now, which is, I feel like, a progress in terms of like positive female. And the cool thing, that her defining trait is like her intelligence. Yeah. Right? And so like I think there's progress there. I think Dazzler is kind of
dying out probably.
She's around, but she doesn't have like her own book. Like she's around. I think she's changed to a certain extent, but there are still comic books that sort of have a Vampirella or a very Vampirella-esque sort of presentation where they are showing a particular ideal body type about women. Now, what comic books now are two. What do you think are the top like female characters right now in terms of heroes?
Wonderwoman definitely, and Supergirl.
Supergirl probably.
Okay. Did y'all ever watch the Jessica Jones show?
No, but like I saw like trailers and stuff.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna recommend it to you if you're not ready for the intensity of it. But it's a deeper story about like male patriarchy. It's about her in an abusive relationship. But it's quite interesting. It's definitely very dark. But given that the two heroes right now are Wonder Woman, who did amazing at the box office. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they were like she's like the best DC movie. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then Supergirl is doing well, I think, in the ratings.
She's doing pretty
What
well.
season is she
Yeah.
in?
Third.
Yeah,
This is the
Yeah.
third season.
Your third season. I've been watching it. I'm very much behind because I'm on the Netflix schedule, and so I enjoy it. But what are things that you do? Is this progress in terms of for women? Like, is this what is your how would you evaluate Wonder Woman or Supergirl in terms of like them being as good positive role models maybe for women?
Yeah, Supergirl is a good positive
She's-
positive role model for women because I remember this one episode where everyone was wondering who's stronger, Superman or Supergirl.
I saw that one.
Yeah, and everyone was saying that, oh, Superman, obviously, he's the guy. But then in that episode, you could see that Supergirl demolished Superman.
Yeah.
And he couldn't fight back after fighting.
Was this in season 1?
This is season 2.
Okay, spoiler alerts, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But that's fine. Okay, but I don't remember that. Was that the beginning?
No, it was towards the end.
Yeah.
Okay,
Middle
I'm
end.
not done.
Middle endish.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did she prove her? Was it just like actual physical?
Yeah,
strength?
they
Yeah,
were physical. Okay, do you want to explain it?
Yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
so it started off with yeah, this is gonna be a major spoiler. I'm sorry, Dela Cruz.
That's fine.
But apparently Mon-El's mom. So Kara went to go rescue Mon-El, and when Kara was stuck on the ship, Kara saw Kal-El, her cousin, as in Superman, and so he was there, and she was like, "Oh, you're gonna help me battle, right?" But apparently, there's this other thing called silver kryptonite.
Yeah, kryptonite.
Silver kryptonite. And apparently that's what it does is if you show it to like somebody from Krypton, it kind of I guess you can manipulate them in a way and make them see a person as their like greatest enemy. So Kal-El saw Kara as, I forgot who his like greatest enemy was. I'm gonna assume Lex Luthor. I don't know, but yeah, his greatest enemy, and he assumed like he would just see that, and he couldn't see anything past that. He'd just see him or whoever the bad person was. And so they started battling, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, you're my cousin." And then after a while, the mom explained, and she was like, "Oh." So they started fighting, and at full force, and Kara ended up winning, and yeah, so it kind of showed like she was stronger because he was doing full force, and she was doing full force, and she still won. So that's basically how it went down.
Okay, so it is clearly like physical strength, right?
Yeah.
Because when you said stronger, I was like, oh, maybe they're talking about, oh, she's like smarter and like stronger in the soul or something like that. But like actually physical strength.
Yeah.
Which I think Supergirl has been very clear about their agenda in like really pushing a sort of feminist show. I did a little bit of research on this stuff, and so. Other defining traits that you feel like the show sort of pushes or tries to accentuate about being a woman, or for young girls that if they were to see this, they would feel like this is something positive for myself, or if a parent's like this is something positive for young women or boys to even look to watch.
Yeah, that being a lesbian or LGBT or being a part of the LGBTQ and coming out is okay and acceptable. That it's not a bad thing because. Her sister Alex came out. Yeah, adopted sister. She came out, and they at the show they didn't like just focus on her coming out. Like how like some gay characters are like they like over like expose it or something like that.
Them, I guess, in a way.
Like they just showed her like okay, she came out like and there was an episode where like she was telling people and like everyone was accepting and everything, but like they didn't just revolve her character around that. They still revolved her as like a bad FBI agent, not FBI agent, more like DEO agent.
Okay, yeah, no, I like Alex's character because oftentimes like there's lesbian characters and you're saying like they create their character centered around her sexuality.
Yeah.
But in this case, it was like she's a character, and sexuality is just a part of her identity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. It's not the centerpiece of
who she is.
Right. At the end of the day, she's like this sister, agent that is multifaceted. Like she can hack, she can shoot things.
Oh,
you
she's
know.
a doctor too.
Yeah.
Right, she can fight. All these things, and she just happens to be a lesbian. There's also cross species dating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to talk about cross species dating?
Yeah, I mean, like, even with just Mon-El and Kara, like,
Yeah.
their planets hated each other. And at first, Kara judged Mon-El because
So
he
much.
was from
Because he's
Daxam.
from Daxam.
But then, it's like, she overlooked that because, like, love is love, and, like, it doesn't matter what race you are. Like, just like in real life, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Filipino, Asian. Like, if you love someone, then race doesn't matter at all.
I feel like I feel like in a way they kind of meant to do that in a way, just because in a way, oh my god, I'm saying in a way a lot. In a way, Kara and Mon-El, they hated each other at first, and they were seen to like never be like together just because of like their planets and how they hated each other so much. But they kind of surpassed that, and Kara was just like, you know what, I didn't even get to know you, like. It's kind of like the stereotype of like what Daxams are and stuff, like this like partier and stuff like that, and she didn't really like look past that, and she just saw him as like being like a bad person, and like when she saw that, they found love and stuff. So I feel like it's kind of like the same thing in real life in a way, because a lot of people like see other people as like bad and like they could never be with them and stuff because of like their race or like their gender, I guess, in a way. So like if they look past that, then they could probably do the same, like as Kara and Mon-El did, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, love is such a centerpiece of the show, where like Kara is driven by love for like Earthlings and for people, love for her sister. Like you get a lot of that. Like a lot of it's, I feel like most of the show doesn't focus so much on the romantic love, but more like the sisterly love.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the most important relationship, or the most focused on in terms of relationship, is between her sister and Supergirl, and a little bit of like the dad and all that stuff. Like this whole family love seems to be the centerpiece, which I think is a step in the right direction, because oftentimes you'll have like female characters and it's always like, oh, who can we have her fall in love with? Like it's always like she has to fall in love mostly in a heterosexual relationship with a male. Didn't you mention before this podcast there was a test? I know what the test is taught. I forgot the name of the test, but maybe re-jolt my memory. Like, what was the test about in terms of how do you make sure a film is not portraying sexist characters type thing?
Yeah, so I heard there was this test where the female character, mostly if it's the like main character, then the main character has to at least speak about 3 conversations with somebody, with a girl other than a guy, basically. So they can't be speaking anything about a guy. It has to be totally different. And yeah, that's
right. So oftentimes females talking with each other is centered around like
about
a heterosexual relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's still centered around a guy, right? So it's very male centered. But I feel like you get a little bit of that in Supergirl, but it's not the centerpiece. It's very much outside. And she has that relationship with
Maggie.
Who's her name?
Oh, Mon-El.
Mon-El, yeah.
so cute.
But,
I thought you were talking about Alex.
Yeah.
But they're not. It's not even the center of their.
No.
Oftentimes, that relationship takes the back burner for her Supergirl duties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And like he gets super salty about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But she's like, no, I gotta do what I gotta do.
Yeah, that's why like some fans, they don't like Mon-El because
yeah.
they say that he's so problematic and he's just holding her back from being Supergirl. Because he's like, oh, I'm the guy in the relationship. Like, he's trying to prove that he is that.
Yeah.
That's what they were theorizing.
Yeah, I feel like, in a way, like, Mon-El, I feel like Mon-El, would try to be the man just because it's kind of seen as that way, but I guess after a while, Kara would, like, consistently tell him, like, I can, like, deal with this on my own, like, I'm an adult, and I'm, like, grown, I'm Kryptonian, I can protect myself, and she doesn't have to be Kryptonian, like, any woman can protect herself, but, like, she would just, like, state that out to him, and I feel like they were, like, the producers were having a really hard time, like, trying to have Mon-El not, like, stop her from, like, what she was doing, but it was really hard for them to, like, keep them relationship in a relationship and not have them like just be focused on their relationship and not what Kara can actually do.
And I just want to mention this little detail that they had. Like, after Monel and Kara first got together, the next morning, instead of Monel getting coffee and roses for Kara, Kara got coffee and roses for Monel.
Oh, so like little things.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, there's little things. I did notice that. And I was like, that's cool.
Yeah. I noticed that and I was like, wow,
and then he was
so
appreciative
different.
of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
It wasn't like, oh, this is gay or whatever. You know what I mean? Don't get me this. I'm not a girl. You know, he was like very much appreciative of the gesture. Yeah, there's small things like that. I also even just noticed like this one's not that small, but like the women in the characters who are women, they're like in power.
Yeah.
Like they're running things.
Yeah, like Maggie
Yeah.
and FBI and Alex
Right.
and Dio.
But if you're also not even like, if you're a man running things, but you're also like the Martian, right? What's his name?
Oh, Jean Jones.
As an African man,
Hank
African American man.
Hank Henshaw,
Yeah, as Hank, he runs sort of as African American man.
Mhm.
There was this crazy episode where he, they even talked about like how like shapeshifters
Mm-hmm.
and how it's like, how does it feel to be. He mentions this, and it's kind of like some people might miss it, but he's like, yeah, there's advantages of shape shifting into a human because I can blend, but he said I also recognize there's also inequalities being a black man, and he says, and he also mentions that like people are more willing to accept Supergirl because she's
White.
blonde,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
a blonde, pretty cheerleader, as he describes it, right? So like there's like small nuggets of that where I'm like, okay, like you're kind of flirting with like touching on something way deeper than like what's actually happening, which I really appreciate about the show.
Yeah, and which I kind of want to kind of move on to kind of like Wonder Woman, because I feel like she's a really great example. Because although like Kara is a really great example, a lot of people see her as, I guess, better just because of her blonde hair and blue eyes. I guess that's more like a stereotypical kind of
Yeah,
thing.
because she's pretty.
She's pretty anyway, and I feel like Wonder Woman, she kind of shows, and like Gal Gadot, she's Australian, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like she kind of breaks the barrier between like you have to be like from a white person and you have to have like blonde hair and blue eyes, because she has brown hair and brown eyes, and
Right.
like she can kick butt the same way as Kara can, and it's kind of like showing that like it doesn't have to be somebody looking like kind of set in this format. You can have somebody else and have them do not the exact same things, but like things that are like far beyond what you would think somebody from that kind of area would be or do.
Yeah, and I also definitely think that Wonder Woman was a step up from the comic book game, especially for women. But I'm still sort of iffy about her costume because it's still sexualized, and like that, her armor only covers her torso and not even the whole of her torso, and she's basically wearing a skirt.
Yeah,
Right.
she's wearing a very, very short.
No, that's an interesting point that you bring up. Because I mean, like, she is essentially the armor of a gladiator, right? But if you're gonna be gladiating out and about, right? Or you're gonna be facing monsters, like, wouldn't you need more protection?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't you need like more armor? But I mean, maybe she doesn't because she's like essentially like
Amazonian.
yeah, Amazonian. Like
Yeah.
she can't essentially die. Like she just gets hurt really bad, you know. But but I feel like Wonder Woman is like one of those things because she was the first, I think, female superhero of all. What's cool about her is that she's Wonder Woman and she wasn't created like, oh, we have a Superman, we'll make a Supergirl.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we have a
Yeah.
Batman, make a Batgirl or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like she wasn't like this. Oh, let's make this based on this original male
Like
character.
an add-on.
Yeah.
It was like Wonder Woman, right? And so for many ways, I kind of see Wonder Woman as like a slight one notch above Supergirl. But at the same time, I have some issues with the movie in terms of I felt like in Wonder Woman she didn't really need a romantic relationship.
Yeah. I was about to say that because like I was expecting like really like not that it's not empowering enough. It's just that I was expecting more because there were a lot of like Chris Pine scenes and I really didn't think we needed that. Especially the one him naked in a bathtub.
Oh, that one was kind of like.
Or was it a
unnecessary.
jacuzzi? Yeah, that
Right.
one.
Like it just felt so forced.
Yeah.
like, oh, she's trying to like save these people. Let's just throw this romantic relationship, and they made it happen so fast. They're dancing, and then next minute they're like together.
Yeah. And then he kept like saying like, "Oh no, you can't do this. You can't do that." Like she's an Amazonian warrior. Yeah, she can do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still thought that it was a great movie. She exhibited strength. Like they showed like a range of emotions. Like when she lost him, but I feel like she could still cry about him without being romantically linked to him.
Yeah.
Like they could have just been really great friends, and he dies, and she's like, "Well, I believe in love, and love saves the day," type thing, or love motivates her to triumph. So yeah, in terms of content, like origin wise, like I feel like Wonder Woman has like a greater origin, but the content that Supergirl is putting out, I think is just very forward thinking in terms of like this generation of like being more accepting of sexuality, race, gender, and even questioning certain gender roles across the board. But I think so. Like the thing with the with Wonder Woman, she came out in like the 40s, like World War II,
Yeah.
right? So during that time, like women were like expected to like cover up for the most part. So during that time, like my understanding, I could be totally wrong. My understanding is that was like liberating for her as a woman to be expressive of like her body. And then of course we fast forward to today, women are now just over sexualized.
Yeah.
Like bodies are over sexualized. Speaking of over sexualized, I had y'all look at the Hawkeye Initiative.
Yeah.
What's Hawkeye Initiative? And I encourage folks to maybe look this up. It's quite interesting because I think it sheds light on the comic book industry and like again like women's bodies and how they're sort of portrayed in media.
So Hawkeye Initiative, it's basically a Tumblr page redrawing Hawkeye with female superhero poses. And it just really shows how sexualized female superheroes are when you look at them. When a male superhero does their poses.
Right. So what were some poses that you felt were like most interesting, if you could remember? Or
there was one of I forgot who it was, but she was basically sitting down and her butt was really just accentuated. And then Hawkeye did the same thing, and I feel like he would just be disgusted because he's a man and like but people are fine with it because she's this female superhero and her butt is supposed to be accentuated.
Right. So I mean, y'all got that from that. From I didn't even tell y'all like this is what you should say. Like just look at it and then like, so Hawkeye in the comic book lore, it's considered like this comical character. Like he's kind of like like Spider-Man has jokes when he fights.
Yeah.
So like Hawkeye is somewhat like that. He kind of has quips and like one-liners. And so to put Hawkeye, who is perceived as not even like a manly character, because there's way more manly characters. There's the Hulk and stuff. To put him in these sort of positions, it kind of says a lot about like how female superheroes can't be female superheroes unless they're like part of them being a superhero like has a lot to do with their body.
Yeah.
Right. And so like there's still. Do you feel like there's still room for improvement in terms of like superhero, like female superheroes? Like what would be like room for improvement, or what would be considered progress? What would you like to see?
More variety of body types and skin tones.
Okay.
I would like to see the costumes not as short or like cover up more. I guess just not necessarily. Let's just leave it at that. Just a bit more coverage,
like,
I guess.
Less sexualized and more like
if they
would
actually
only
fight in it.
Yeah, they would like focus more on their actual powers, like how they do with male superheroes instead of just focusing on their body.
Right. I mean, have y'all seen the Avenger movies?
Yeah.
Like Black Widow's outfit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like her origin is that she's a spy. Yeah. But when you're out with the Avengers, you're not going to be doing much spying, so you don't really need to have this suit that's, skin tight and super quiet. Like, if you know you're going to be in a war, maybe you should suit up a little more heavily, instead of, like, walking around in a jumpsuit, which I find really... It's hard for me to watch because I think there are certain situations where it's appropriate for a woman to have skin tight clothing, like if you're spying, doing spy work. But if you're walking around with the Hulk, you're not gonna do much spying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is
You're gonna
giant
get
green
caught.
guy. There's a giant green guy yelling behind you, and you're like trying to spy in a skin tight suit. So I'm saying like suits are appropriate for what situation, right? And I think it's fine. You know, it's not necessarily saying cover up. But it's like, what's the situation and what are you going to use it for? You know, if you're going to be in a place where it's super hot, then you probably need some protective, like, armor, you know, so if you don't have, like, you know, super strong skin. Yeah. Any other sort of improvements? Like, man, I would love to see, like, a Latina superhero.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
They need more of those. I don't think I've seen, like...
I think there was one called La Boricua. She was like Puerto Rican, but this was indie comics.
Yeah, but like
Marvel has not released one.
We'd want to see it from Marvel or DC, like the main comic books.
Right.
Yeah.
Because those have the farthest reach.
Yeah.
Right. But there is progress, and like there's Moongirl and Devil Dinosaur.
Yeah.
And they made, was it Black Widow or Catwoman? Halle Berry.
Oh, Halle Berry was Catwoman.
I was like, Catwoman.
It was a really bad movie, I heard. But I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think just give her another shot, just a different writer. And Miss Marvel, have y'all?
Oh yeah, I've heard about
Miss
I've
Marvel?
heard of her.
Yeah.
I think she's Pakistani Muslim American, and she takes on the moniker of Miss Marvel, and she's super stretchy and stuff. So, and she's totally like she's like a high school student, yeah, she has like a stretchy body, which is not accentuated. She just, if anything, she makes her fist bigger if she needs to. But yeah, there's plenty of room for improvement. Like I'm waiting for the grandma with like with laser beam eyes or something. Yeah.
And another movie without a romantic love with a man.
Yeah.
Like maybe like make her fall in love with a woman too.
Yeah.
Right. I heard Disney's gonna do that.
Oh yeah.
Is that true?
Or
Disney?
I think it was with like a rumor with Finding Dory, how there was like a lesbian couple with their baby.
Oh yeah, that was like an Easter egg.
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah, I have to Google
Finding
that.
Dory.
Yeah, I think Disney is going to start. They're gonna do but I heard they're gonna redo a live action for Mulan.
Oh yeah, but it's just that they didn't add the musical, and I really was looking forward to that.
Wait, they're not adding the music?
No.
Mulan is great.
Yeah.
Because there's gender bending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it's like a person of color within that movie.
And with Disney too, they started making colored princesses, not just not just Tiana. There was a new one. What's her name?
Elaine.
Yeah, Elena of. Is it Elsa?
Avalar.
Yeah, Avalar.
I had a bunch of freshmen that were into that last year. We had class debates on
Elena.
if Elena was better than this other woman.
Mm.
Yeah. She's on. My kid watches Elena of Avalar sometimes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then
Sophia the First. She's
first?
white.
Oh, I don't know, but I just know there's like more princesses.
Oh yeah, and her
Okay.
she's a 6-year-old, I think.
Yeah, she's a
So
6-year-old.
More variety on
A
age
6-year-old.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moana. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Moana, yes.
Yes, Moana.
And Coco just came out, but is that like a boy?
It's,
Coco's
I
a
think
boy?
I haven't seen it,
I
but
haven't
I've
seen
seen
it
a lot
either.
of people. I think Coco's after like the grandma. I don't know if I'm wrong, but like I think the name Coco is after like his grandma. I don't know if she plays such a big role. I haven't seen it yet, but
It's good that these big companies are starting to catch on that, because I think there was this worry that like, oh, if you put brown people as our main characters, folks aren't gonna watch it. Right, because most of the population is white, right? So close to 70% is white. Oh, white people are not going to watch brown people on the screen, but that has run counter. They've been wrong about that. Like the recent, was it Rogue One of the Star Wars movie? Have y'all seen that?
No, but there was a new
The
one that
entire
came out,
cast was people of color.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
There was a Mexican American in space, which is amazing because the stereotype is that white folks are only in space, but there was like a black guy, Mexican American, right?
I think I've seen
that
that
were in space
on a poster.
and Chinese dudes. Donnie Yen was in it. I don't know if you know Donnie Yen, kung fu guy.
Oh, yeah. That kind of reminded me of like Flash in a way, because
Wally. They made Wally.
Wally and
Iris.
because I know in the comics.
Oh, it was interracial dating,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know in the comics, I think Wally's white.
Oh, and
I
also
think-
in Supergirl, Mikad Brooks.
Magon?
No,
Or-
Mikad Brooks plays Jimmy Olsen
Jimmy Olsen, yeah.
instead of a white guy.
Yeah.
Oh. Wait, yes.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
him and Kara sort of got together, so that's also interracial.
And
Not just with
something new
aliens.
just happened, but I'm not gonna spoil. Yeah, no, it just happened yesterday. And it's still interracial, but it kind of reminded me of like Flash because where was I gonna lead? They brought in like Barry's best friend is Mexican American, so it's kind of like bringing in all cultures because you have African American, you have white, you have and then Mexican, and they had another episode with people from Native Americans. And I feel like they did a pretty good job on showing that how like she was a villain, but they did a pretty good job on why she was doing what she was doing. She was trying to protect like the artifacts from her like tribe. She didn't want them to be like put in museums and stuff. They said that they were supposed to be meant for I forgot what her tribe was, but they were supposed to be meant for her tribe. They can't just take them away and like put them as like American like artifacts when they're Native American. I don't know. It was really good that they used like Native Americans also, and not necessarily like other kind of, I don't know, but it was good that they used like Native Americans and involved them into an episode 2. So yeah.
Right. I wanted to go back to the whole Hawkeye initiative thing. I think that like I read this article where they're saying like for men, and I think it's, to be fair, like there's also the expectation that when boys consume comic books, they also are struck with body image issues as well.
Yeah.
Right? That they have to look like muscular and like adhere to sort of this masculine identity. But I feel like the body is sometimes not central to who they are. Because you also have skinny characters, like Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Ain't no muscles on him, just a whole bunch of lights, yeah? Or like, the Hulk, when he's not the Hulk, he's like this nerdy guy. And Captain America, essentially, is just a guy on steroids.
Yeah.
Right? He's a guy on steroids. Like, what's your power? Steroids.
And shield.
Yeah, and throwing. That's your power. Right? Or Iron Man is essentially
just rich,
smart, and rich.
And Batman too.
Right.
He's just rich.
And
but
what's that other one from Legends of Tomorrow?
Oh,
Adam.
Yeah, Adam.
Yeah,
he's just rich too.
He's
like
just
Batman.
rich, and
and they go out there and just do what they do. They superhero, right? But like for women, like when we look at like the Hawkeye Initiative pictures of the fan art, it's like these women can't just do what they do. They have to still look like models while doing their superhero stuff. Like they have to shoot a gun a certain way so that you see their behind, or they have to like jump out of a building with their toes pointed. Like it has to be done as if like they're ballerinas or almost like posing every time for sort of the male gaze, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not. It's drawn for like this male audience, but we're in a changing time where, right, as I mentioned,
everyone's watching.
Right.
I mean, not watching, but like reading.
More women are consuming comics. We'll wrap up pretty soon here, and I will say, well, I want to mention that Storm was like the first African American woman, superhero woman, who came out during the Civil Rights Movement. Yeah, and so X-Men came out during the Civil Rights Movement, and it was during a time where they were talking about equality, and so X-Men was this allegory to sort of talk about civil rights. Like they were being mistreated because they were mutants, and so in the same way, like people of color wanted to fight for equality. So like comic books very much mirror like the political landscape of what's happening, right? And so a lot of people might be resistant to like having people like a Moongirl or a Miss Marvel because they're not, showing their bodies in traditional 90s or 80s comics,
Mm-hmm.
but like times are changing, right?
Yeah.
Women have a louder voice, and they express displeasure about how their bodies are being portrayed. And so like people have to understand comics has always been matched up with what's happening politically and historically. I think Hulk came about during civil rights movement as well.
She-Hulk?
The Hulk.
Oh, the Hulk.
And the Hulk was very like anti-war, like he was destroying tanks all the time, like in his first few comics. So it was like the comic books writer's expression of saying, "Hey, the war that's going on, we need to not have it."
Yeah.
And so this is his way of sort of, and I even think Captain America first came out. He was punching Hitler in his first issue. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, World War
I didn't
II,
know
obviously, right? World
Oh,
War
yeah.
II.
Yeah, yeah.
He was punching Hitler in his first issue. So like comics are very much political, and I think some people get wrapped up and they say comics should not be political, right? And so when I watch like Supergirl, I'm like, yes, it should be political.
Mm-hmm.
They should push a certain agenda because that's how comics has always been. Now there are always comics that are outside of that, but there's a good number of them that are always talking about politics. But I did this, man, that's such a tangent, but I'll read this here. I looked up, so I recently saw this video about sexual harassment in Comic-Cons, and basically it was, I think this was from geekanthropologist.com, and it said that like sexual harassment at Comic-Cons are pretty high for women, right? And like or sexual assault, like these things are happening at Comic-Cons, and it sort of creates this unsafe space for people to like cosplay and to sort of, because the idea of cosplaying is like you get to be someone, you know, that you admire. Like
Yeah.
you get to, and for you, you're supposed to feel comfortable in that. You're supposed to feel happy in this. But then now you have these high cases of sexual assault or harassment that sort of muddy up this whole thing. How do you feel about like things at Comic-Con conventions? Like, what do you think could be done better to sort of prevent this from going on? What can our boys learn? Yeah.
No, I think this is one of the outcomes of female superheroes being portrayed as like sexual objects. So that's like, I'm pretty sure that's some of the reason why there's a high sexual harassment rate in those Comic-Cons, because those people reading, not all of them, but like, you know, obviously some of them who's been reading the female superheroes and seeing their sexy portraits on their comic books, they're like, and they really admire them because, wow, that's hot, you know. And then if they see it in real life, they're tempted somehow.
Yeah.
And that's the bad message that we don't want our little children to know, like just little boys, because that's what's happening. Girls are being objectified and harassed.
It's crazy because some of them actually said they were actually even harassed as male characters for some of them. But I don't know what they were actually wearing. But that's, regardless of what they were wearing, it still shouldn't warrant any sexual harassment, right? Was there any thoughts on how do you think these things could be prevented? Do you think Comic-Con can take more responsibility?
Yeah, I think they should. They should take more responsibility and maybe a little more security.
Maybe. I feel like if they had more, like, up their security, maybe this stuff wouldn't be happening, or it would be caught sooner, I guess. I guess just more security. I guess that's all I can really come up with.
It's hard, yeah. And maybe just there has to be a shift in the way that women are drawn in comics. You know, I get people have certain styles, and I know artists have to accentuate certain parts sometimes. But you have to ask why are they accentuating that part? Like sometimes you have to accentuate like a fist to show how strong this punch is, right?
Yeah.
But is it always necessary to accentuate a woman's body parts when all she's doing is, you know, getting inside a car? Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, what's the purpose of that? You know, all she's doing is picking something up. Like, it becomes it adds to this larger culture of like sexual harassment. Anything else, man? I had this note here. So Sailor Moon. Are you familiar with Sailor Moon?
I'm not really. Are you?
What do you know about Sailor Moon?
That there were like 3 of them, and then
I think so, 3. I don't know.
Yeah,
4
and then
or 5. I don't know.
and then they're like one's like a star or something, and basically their superpowers are it's like and they're like wand thingy.
Yes. So they're these women, the Sailor Moon. They're after the planets like Sailor Mars, Venus. Miss McCann knows a lot of this stuff. So I tried to invite her to this, but maybe she's gonna totally listen to this. But Sailor Moon was actually one of the first Japanese comics to introduce LGBT relationships.
Oh.
Yeah. But it was crazy because it was pretty. I don't have it in my notes. But for a while, but prior to this, during the 70s, American comic books could not portray lesbian relationships.
Like as a rule?
Yeah, because it was like, oh, the kids are going to all become gay deviants, you know? Right?
Yeah.
But then they got rid of it in the 80s, I think. And then but prior to that, Japan was sort of ahead of America in terms of being the first to portray. I think Sailor Moon was one of the first or the first to portray sort of lesbian or gay, transgendered, transsexual relationships in their sort of comics or their cartoons.
Yeah.
So it's, but now we're in a different place. 2017. You know,
2018 is around the corner.
Right. It's normal for Supergirl. If there's a series that you would want that featured a superhero girl, what would you want in 2018?
A series.
Or a movie.
Wait, that featured Supergirl or like something?
Or like a superhero.
Any
female superhero. Yeah.
Moongirl, yeah.
Moongirl.
She deserves one.
She deserves like a movie, a full-on movie.
With a dinosaur?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Like no guy relationship.
Yeah.
Just like a little girl and her intelligence. I'd totally watch that.
That'd be so cool. Moongirl is probably...
Yeah. And it's a really positive role model for little girls and even boys. Like little boys, they see someone their age and they could strive to be that.
Yeah, actually, I think Moongirl, I'm not sure about Moongirl, but Miss Marvel, the one with the Pakistani Muslim American woman, her comic book, I think, last time I checked, was one of the best-selling ones in Marvel.
Maybe they can make a series off of her.
Because people really want change and diversity.
Yeah.
And people even like the whole like high school angsty character.
Yeah.
Like the whole awkward.
Yeah, because it never like gets old.
Yeah.
It never. Like I'll watch that stuff and I'll be like, why am I watching this high school stuff? But I'm like, that's me. Like, and I sometimes cringe, but I laugh because it takes you back.
Yeah.
To a time before you paid bills and had kids. Yeah. Enjoy it while it lasts. Yes.
Yeah, we will definitely.
Is there anything else before we wrap up here?
I guess I don't know, to add on to like other people who could have series. I don't know. I feel like maybe more series on with women, I guess, as the main star. Because what I know now of is mostly, I do know like Sarah from Legends of Tomorrow. Like she's pretty, like the boss, I guess. So she's kind of like the main, and then like you have Supergirl. And so you have, like, Flash and then, like, the Arrow. And those are kind of, like, head-to-head. But, like, maybe another women, I guess, as, like, the main character of a series, maybe. Because I know, like, I guess Legends is kind of, like, more of a team, I guess. Yeah. They don't necessarily have, like, a full-on main character. And I know, like, all of them are kind of, like, more of a team, but they're more centered around, like, one person. And I feel like, what if they would do that to, like, another woman? I don't know. I would like Jessie Quick from Flash because I heard she has her own team now. So I would really like to see like her in action and like see her on Earth 2, right? I was going to say 3, but that's Kara's, I think. So yeah, Earth 2 and her fighting and kind of figuring herself out because she's kind of like, she's kind of like a teen still, I guess. And I think she's like 20 or 19 around there. But I would like to see that.
Yeah, and more women of color, too.
Yeah.
Because they're all white right now.
Right. I mean, I'll take any woman of color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we need a Latina,
Oh my gosh. I really
superhero.
want a Latina superhero.
And I was like, we need an Asian superhero. She better not be doing no martial arts.
Yeah. Yeah, because every time there's
I feel like when
right? Like
they'll
Mulan.
do it, and I get scared, like, oh, here it comes.
Here comes
She's gonna do some
her
karate.
power.
Yeah, what's your power? Like, karate, like, or kung fu, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
Taekwondo.
Yeah.
But you know what? It says something when you hear stuff like that, and then, like, there's a part of you that gets fearful about that. And I think it says a lot about, like, the media, that there's room for improvement, right? Because I imagine that, like, white folks are not going to get worried, when they're like, oh, there's this new white superhero, and they're not going to be like, oh my god, it better not be, like, wearing a KKK hood, you know what I mean? Like, that's not going to happen. Or it better not be, like, just eating burgers and fries and, like, making casseroles, like, these stereotypes, right? Because that's not going to happen. But it's very real when, like, they put out, like, a hero that's black, and they're like, oh no, she's going to talk out of her neck and be super sassy and whatever, or she's going to have some name like Keisha, who's from the hood. That's every origin story of a black character, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
But hey, Black Panther's coming out, right?
Oh yeah, I saw the
Which
trailer. That looked good.
Which will be great. I think they should throw Storm in there somehow. Storm just make it complete.
Yeah, a duo.
But it says something when, like, Black Panther's coming out, and a lot of the black community is like, this is our one chance to, because they feel like the opportunities are so slim. Yeah. So there's definitely room for improvement.
Oh, and also, if they do make, like, live actions of any superheroes with, like, colored people, they better not hire, like, Scarlett Johansson or Mark Wahlberg again to play a Chinese person or a Japanese, Korean person.
Yeah, that was really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that they did that with Emma Stone for another movie, and she was supposed to play, like, a Korean person, but she's not Korean.
Yeah.
It's kind of, like, weird, because they're supposed to be... I guess it's still supposed to be a Korean person, but in reality, they're seen as, like, this other person, and not necessarily as who they are supposed to be, I guess.
Like, yeah, we get it. Like, Hollywood, we need big names for movies, but, like, sometimes it's just unnecessary, and it just ruins the whole thing.
Well, I think it hurt them. Like, I think Ghost in the Shell did horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Because of that. I think the Hollywood is underestimating their consumers. Like, the consumers are actually really smart, right? Yeah. Like, y'all could pick up on this stuff. I could pick up on this stuff. And, like, we kind of, like, look at this sideways, like, I don't know, right? About this Scarlett Johansson, They even did that to, they did a live action on Netflix for Death Note.
Oh, yeah. And wasn't it Ryan Gosling or something?
It was an anime, which was a Japanese anime, and the characters were Japanese. And then they casted white actors for the piece, which I didn't watch. I refused to watch it. I feel like Hollywood, they have to change. Like, people are speaking with their dollars, and people are demanding. People are, so, like, with that said, like, continue to support, like, these great efforts. I read criticisms of Supergirl, and they're fair criticisms, but for the most part, like, I'm okay with those criticisms. I'm going to continue to support the show. I didn't like everything about Wonderwoman, particularly the romance, but, like, I'm going to continue to support, like, a movie or a hero like Wonder Woman, because I think there's things that are moving us in the right direction as, like, a society, and for our boys to, like, our young men to view women as sort of as powerful beings as
and not
men.
just sexual objects.
Right. So yeah, I'm waiting for my Filipino grandma, my Lola character, or abuela, like
making lumpia by day and, like, shooting lasers at night.
Right. Something just, like, weird, but interesting, because I would definitely tune in. I'll give a quick thank you to our guests, Julianne and Jessica, for contributing to this great conversation. Andre, how do you say his last name? Moistero, for doing our logo. And Andrew, I'm messing his name, Aguilar Cruz, and Andrew Aguilar, for doing the music for this podcast, which you don't hear at this moment, but you'll hear when I edit it later on. Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
If you want to see a certain superhero have their own series or movie, comment down below which one, And also, if comment down below what kind of superpower you would like if you were a superhero.
Right. Cool. Please share this widely. We are, again, SSF WarriorCast podcast. Find us on YouTube. In the meantime, while we try to sort out other hosting sites for our podcast. Thank you so much.